Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Proven Seed, leading-edge technology and performance you can count on in canola, cereals, corn, soybeans, and forages. Available only at Nutrien Ag Solutions. Learn more at provenseed.ca.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today we have an amazing guest. We have Darren Lang joining us. Welcome, Darren. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for the invite, Tracy. Happy to be here today.
I am so excited to have you on the show. For those of you guys tuning in, Darren is a speaker. He's an author of the book titled Staying Up in an Upside Down World. And that's what we are going to be chatting about today. We are September as we record this, 2021. And I would say in the farming world and the pandemic world, staying up in an upside down world is definitely where I think most of us are trying to be at. So welcome, Darren. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Tracy, thank you so much. And I love the intro there because you know what? I get a lot of feedback from people saying, yeah, after all the tough times that we've been through here with everything that's going on in the world, we could all use a few ideas to stay up in this sometimes kooky, unpredictable, upside down world that we live in. So that's a big part of what I do, I suppose, for a living. As you said in the opener, I'm a speaker and author who, talks to conferences, talks to individual teams about how do you go about doing that? Given all the changes that we deal with in life, all the changes we've dealt with through this pandemic that we're dealing with, how do you, in spite of it all, take care of yourself along the way? And as the title says, stay up in this fast-paced, changing, sometimes stressful, upside-down world that we find ourselves in.
Fantastic. And diving a little bit more into where we're at here in the farming world, right. You and I were chatting. We are, farming is a tough profession. It really is. And I know we've been put through the ringer, many of us in the audience watching. We have had a really bad drought this year, as you know, grasshoppers. What the heat didn't kill for most farmers, the grasshoppers finished off. And, the most challenging thing is I think most farms have built up to this devastating year with a few dry years. And of course, that's reduced yield. So there's been some stress, mental health challenges leading up to this. And I think this year has really put a lot of farmers and farm families in a tough spot. So that, and as you know, just navigating this pandemic world, it's crazy. So I'm happy to have you on and get you to share your story and some inspiration and tips for our audience. Are you ready to roll?
Yeah, I am. And just to give you a bit of background, actually farming are my own roots where I come from as well. We had a family farm when I was a kid for years. So in addition to all the unpredictability you find in farming, you have all these other challenges tossed on top of it this year. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and talk a little bit about the unpredictability and sometimes how when we're not managing that unpredictability, it can start to turn into some mental health issues, which I'm happy to see people are talking more about, but we're not quite there yet. We need to kind of understand this a little bit more and talk to each other, get the information out there. So yeah.
Okay. I love it. And here I have the platform to have those tough conversations, awkward conversations. And you know what? I'm a farmer. I'm going through it. I am taking the better part of September and October to talk about these hard conversations, mental health, stress, depression. So let's roll right in. Like many of the people that are watching, Darren, I know you've had your journey, experienced stress and mental health firsthand. Would you be willing to share your story with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And My journey actually goes back to, boy, it all started for me back in about 2000. And we were based in, my wife and I live in Regina. We've lived in Saskatchewan our whole lives. And I was actually working at the time at the local phone company, SaskTel. And I had a 10-year career there. I was in marketing. I was a marketing manager. And my wife is also a speaker for a living. And it was a time in our lives where her career was really starting to take off. She was getting calls from all across Canada to share her empowering message. We had a young family. So we decided we needed to make a change. That one of us wanted to be home base for the young family while Darcy was out doing her thing. So I left my job at SaskTel, and the idea was that I was going to be home base for the kids and kind of be, like a Mr. Mom or something like that. So that was the beginning of a big change for me. And to go back a little bit, I'd never dealt with mental health before. I'd heard about depression and anxiety, but I always kind of thought, it would never be me. That happens to the guy down the street who never comes out of his house, that sort of thing, but never had a background in that. And so when I left my job at SaskTel, there were a few big changes that I honestly don't think I was quite prepared for. And the first one was, I don't think I was ready for how much of my identity I tied to my job at SaskTel and what I did for a living. Walking away from, I was always this marketing manager, and that was my identity. And I felt like I left a whole piece of who I was behind. And I also don't think I was quite prepared for the bit of the isolation that I know we are all feeling that with COVID and all that sort of stuff. But just suddenly leaving a busy workplace with people to talk to and whatnot, and be at home with the kids. I love my kids. Yes. Don't get me wrong. But, there's something about watching the same Barney video for like the 67th time that kind of gets to you.
Barney will do that to you.
Barney will do that. I hated that purple dinosaur.
Oh my gosh. God. Yeah.
And, another big piece that I noticed was my wife and I had been married for about 7 years before that. And we had this new young family come along, and Darcy was busy traveling. And I really started to feel like during that time that I was missing my wife, for lack of a better way to say it. I find when you get really busy in your world that we found we were really good at being entrepreneurs in our small business that we were running out of our home, and really good at being a mom and dad to our kids. But we were kind of starting to forget how to prioritize each other and how to make sure our marriage got the attention that it deserved. And so that was my change back, 20 plus years ago now. And it wasn't an earth-shattering change, but it was my change. And the truth is, I wasn't really dealing with that change very well. I knew I wasn't feeling comfortable in my new surroundings, but I wasn't doing a damn thing about it. Probably took about 10 months to a year. And I could just feel myself moving in this direction, kind of I'm usually a pretty happy-go-lucky guy, and I was not that guy. I was getting quiet. I was snapping at Darcy and the kids, and I just short fuse, that sort of thing. That wasn't me. So my wonderful observant wife comes to me one day and she says, Darren, this isn't you. We talked about this change. We talked about you quitting your job, and just this doesn't seem to be going very well. We need to change things up. She goes, we need to get away somewhere. Let's take a vacation. Let's go somewhere we've always wanted to go. Let's go to Hawaii, she says. So I'm thinking, who doesn't want to go to Hawaii, right? I've always wanted to go to Hawaii before, sign me up.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, this is going to be the change, right? It's going to be the big reconnect for us and a family. So the big day comes, and we zip off to Hawaii, land in Waikiki, and it's a beautiful sunny day, beautiful day. And I'll never forget, we were driving along in our little rental car. We pulled onto what they call the Strip in Waikiki, Kalkaua Boulevard. And we're driving along, and I'm a lots to do kind of guy. So this is an exciting sort of place. There's lots of shops and pubs and restaurants, and the whole Strip lights up at night. It's a cool place. As we drove along, my my family, who'd never been on a trip like this before, they were taking it all in, right? They were, oh, for the beach and the ocean and the palm trees and all that. So I had the excitement of my family here. I had all these activities all around me. And as we drove along, I suddenly realized that this is kind of as good as it gets, right? I have everything right now that I love all around me. And inside, I felt nothing. I don't know. What I thought was going to be a big reconnect for us, I felt blank. And it was weird because I'm looking around at all these things that I know I love to do these things. And I know, excited to be with my family. And I wasn't feeling it. And you know what, Tracy, I think that was maybe the first time that I fully realized that this is beyond just stress. This is turning into kind of a mental health piece that I was having a hard time pulling myself out of. And so that was kind of the beginning of a journey for me. And again, it happened over a long period of time, but just 10 months of not doing anything about changes and stressful situations. And it depleted me to a point where I wasn't rebounding from it. And so, of course, it started the journey of mental health for me, talking to doctors, talking to counselors, and trying to get me back more than anything. And so that's actually how I started my speaking career, and talking about all this is a lot of it is what I learned along the way. So that's what we can chat about here a little bit this afternoon.
You know what? And I find it so weird that mental health and speaking about it is taboo. Like if I had a broken arm or any kind of disease, it wouldn't be a problem. And I know we say this when we speak about mental health. I'm excited for the day where we go, oh yeah, my physical health is good. Oh, my mental health, right? Because we all have mental health. We're regular, or we're sliding somewhere not so great. But absolutely. I love that you use your experience and the platform to speak about this and share. And I imagine, go ahead. I was going to say, I imagine myself, I'm relating, and those watching are relating as well, because we're all going through various parts of this isolation and changes and uncertainty, right?
And Tracy, I think you said something really important there, that we all deal with mental health. We're all on the spectrum. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a matter of the circumstances being, right for an extended period of time. And it does get to a point where it actually starts to deplete you. It just starts to deplete your brain chemistry, and it makes it really hard to rebound. So yeah, it's wise words, Tracy. We are all on that mental health spectrum.
Okay, on that note, why don't we chat about stress and how we can go from stress and how that slides into mental health issues?
Great question. And that is, I think, so critical for people to understand, because it can be very confusing. Because, hey, stress, who doesn't feel stress? We all feel stress every day. It's a normal part of life. But it kind of works this way. I call the process of how stress turns into mental health, the process of getting caught in what I call a down spiral. Okay. And so this process works this way. Say that you get a phone call from a friend or a family member or something, and they're kind of getting in your business, and you're kind of upset at what they're saying to you, and you're kind of giving it back to them, and it's escalating, it's going back and forth, right? You jam down the phone and you're upset, you're stressed. What happens when we don't like the situation we are in, we are thinking negatively about the situation, is your body tries to respond by releasing a shot of adrenaline, right? Our fight or flight response is initiated. So this in general is your stress response. It's that fight or flight, something's wrong, I've got to respond to this. Now, what happens in that moment is not only does your body start to change, but your brain starts to change as well. And your brain goes from easygoing, get along you to emotional you, right? And we know emotional. We met emotional us. We've met that. Never us. Yeah, that's right.
Don't ask Anthony.
Oh yeah. Don't ask my wife either.
Yeah.
It's that part of us that makes really bad decisions, right? We fly off the handle, we blow up at somebody, and it's part of that adrenaline hit. So what happens here is what's happening behind the scenes, and while we're getting all emotional, we're all stressed out, something else is actually happening where your body says after about 5 or 10 minutes, Darren, like, come on, man, you're upset, you're stressed out, we got to calm down. And so what your body does is it actually releases a counter shot to the shot of adrenaline. That counter shot is a little substance that you may have heard of before called serotonin. Now, serotonin, and the best way to think about serotonin is it's like your body's natural good mood fluid. And it really does work this way, that when you have high levels of serotonin in your brain and body, you feel more optimistic. Your thoughts connect better, and you feel more glasses half fullish, if that's a term.
Yeah.
As you go through stress, and stress starts to deplete those serotonin levels, when your serotonin levels get very low, you start to feel more negative, more like anxiety creeps in, and you feel more like the glass is half empty. Now, this is a really, really key part where many of us, where stress is starting to turn into mental health. Because what starts to happen is this. Let's take farming, for example. When we kick things off, you named a whole bunch of different things that farmers, the weather's unpredictable. Is the rain that we're not getting, the grasshoppers taking everything that was left after that. There's a lot of unpredictability, and farming can be a stressful thing in and of itself.
Yeah.
But when we start to run into these kinds of conditions, it's like the stress just keeps coming, boom, 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 and it starts to burn up those serotonin supplies very quickly. Right. And so if serotonin is what drives your mood, right, and what helps you to stay in a good mood, when you're very depleted in your serotonin, well, how is your mood, right? When you go to deal with the next situation on the farm, it's likely you're going to be not feeling so good, and you're going to be a little crusty, and you're going to be a little cranky, and it's going to be a little bit easier to kind of react at the next thing that happens or the next breakdown that happens, right? And it relaunches the stress process all over again. And so this is typically that stress or that down spiral that people kind of get caught in, where if you're not doing something about it and your serotonin levels are constantly being depleted, you tend to just go further and further down until you start dealing with the things that we classically refer to as mental health, like depression, like anxiety, are all things that are very heavily linked to low serotonin levels. Does that make sense?
That is phenomenal. I have never heard an explanation so great. Wow.
Good. I guess to me, a big part of wanting to do something about your mental health is understanding that, I think especially men, right? And not to say men alone, but men, especially, farm and you're strong on the farm and all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of men think, geez, I'm mentally tough. I can rise above this. And it's not just about your mental toughness and about your thinking. There's actually something going on with your brain chemistry that when you stay in the middle of tough situations without a break, because serotonin can regenerate and recover, right? But that's why they say you can go through stress, but you need to have a break as well. You need to take that vacation. You need to have a breather throughout the day. You need to give your mind a chance to calm down and your body to recover so that it can ramp up your serotonin levels again. So that is the big key. So, and to me, when I was dealing with the middle of my big life change, it was a whole bunch of perfect storm of changes hitting at the same time. And it just eventually depleted to the point where I was feeling lousy. I was feeling off, and depression and anxiety start to be something that you deal with at that point.
Yikes. And that is such a good, I have honestly never heard an explanation that great, Darren. So now let's look at, before we roll into where we want to go next, let's look at some of the people in our audience that had a terrible harvest. They're taking a crop off that's 10%, 20%, whatever it is. Margins are small in agriculture. You need things to go well. So we know many farmers are going to end this year in a not great position. Okay. And then we chat a little bit about being a grain farmer. Then the season's over. You might spend more time in the house. You're now dealing with the financial stuff. And then again, where I'm going with this is I'm picturing how this happens to a farmer. You have a hit of stress. And even if the season's done, we're dealing with the financial stress and the consequences. And then guess what? You got to spend a whole whack of money to order more seed and inputs for next year after a terrible year. So yeah, I could see where you're saying like the hits just come. And if we're not doing something to nourish that or replenish, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Or turn it around, right? In the middle of you're starting to move in this direction. You need to recognize that you're moving in this direction and then understand how to put the brakes on and get yourself moving back in a better direction. And Tracy, we talked, before we started the recording, we were chatting a little bit about like season affective disorder and those sorts of things and SAD. And in addition to having a challenging year on the farm, so you're right, a grain farmer is trying to wind things down a little bit, and suddenly they're going to be spending more time in the house. And the sun actually has a huge effect on those very serotonin levels that we talked about. Just as a really quick way of explaining it, the sun actually triggers serotonin production. When we're out on a beautiful sunny day standing in the field, you're out in the sunshine, how that sun makes you squint, like you're out there and it's like, wow, that's bright. That brightness has a stimulating effect on a little gland in the middle of your brain called the pineal gland. And that is your serotonin regulator. And when that gland is stimulated, it says, oh, we need to be doing stuff on the farm. We need to get the crops off. We need to get, things fertilized. We need to get the spraying done. And it starts your serotonin engine. And so this is why when we moved into September, October, and the sun is not up as long, it's not as intense, that brightness isn't as great, and it doesn't wake up your serotonin production like it needs to be. So sometimes it can even be a seasonal change where your good mood fluid engine, your serotonin engine just naturally is not chugging away during the winter months like it usually does. And so there's another piece that sort of impacts as well.
And I think that's huge for farmers because you go from spending much time outside and such long days. I know the sun affects me dramatically. I told you, my saying is I am like a solar panel. When the sun's out in full force, Tracy's in full force. The sun goes. She's in full force. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I noticed
that's a very cool analogy. I love it. I gotta remember that one. That's good.
Thank you. Okay, that was fantastic. I think there's a lot of people in the audience that are probably having some light bulb moments going, oh, and relating to what you're saying, your story, and how you're explaining that. So next, I would love for you to share some signs that if somebody's watching, that they could go, oh, maybe I'm dealing with more than just stress. Could I be dealing with depression or anxiety? How do you know?
Well, and that's a great question, and it's a challenging question, Tracy, because as I said before, we all feel stress. Who doesn't feel stress? It's part of being a human being, right? We all feel that from time to time. And there's your general checklist of what people feel when they are dealing with mental health. And you might feel anxious, you might feel exhausted, you might have a hard time sleeping, you might feel super hungry, you might crave carbs and sugar, you might have lost your appetite altogether, right? So there's a huge list of things that, is this just normal stressful time of life, or has this gone beyond that? And I guess one of the big indicators is if you've been feeling these things for, usually it's more than a month. Not to say you are dealing with mental health, but it starts to run the risk of having depleted your serotonin levels to a point where maybe it has started to cross over into, not just normal day-to-day stressors, right? If you've lost your appetite for more than a month, or if you had super high sugar cravings for more than a month, or another big piece with mental health is that your thoughts start to circle on you a little bit. Like little things bug you, right? You're very sensitive and you have hard time getting these little bothers out of your mind. They just loop and loop and loop and loop. And all of these are pieces of what can contribute to mental health. Obviously, there's the whole depressive feeling of, boy, I used to really love hanging out with my friends, or, having a glass of wine with my wife, or whatever it is. And you don't feel that same connection to it as you used to. So, hey, we all deal with those kind of indicators at points in our life, but the general rule of thumb is that when it goes on for a long period of time and it's a change in the way you usually are, it probably is time to take a little bit of action and to take the next step to sort of see, am I dealing with something, and do I need to be proactive in dealing with that?
Okay. And you know what? In addition, here we have the individual watching as a farmer and those stresses. And I don't care what anybody says, the pandemic is doing a number on all of us. I mean, the mask, the isolation, the uncertainty, everything crazy going on kind of plays just right into what you said, the isolation. We have been isolated on top of all the stress we're dealing with. That's not healthy, right?
No, and that's a big piece of it. I can't tell you how many sessions I've done with organizations over the past year and it always they come to me and they say, you know what, everybody's working from home. Everybody's isolated. They're used to the hustle and bustle of an office. That's a big change. And don't get me wrong, not everybody's feeling that. Some people they're doing okay. Yeah. But other people who really need that social connect are really, really feeling the isolation. They're really, really feeling that miss of that social contact and social connection. And I've become a big believer that many of us need that a lot more than maybe we realize we do. I'm
realizing it. I
am too.
I always said, I don't need a group. I'm an entrepreneur. I've always worked on my own. I mean, I had my team.
I get it.
And I'm nose to the ground, right? And work. So I'm working at home should be fantastic. But now I'm just going to the city to drive around and soak up people every once in a while, right? So it's crazy.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I know. I feel exactly the same way. I need to get out and see big people. I tell my wife, especially when I was doing the Mr. Mom thing at home and I was with the kids all the time. Like I said, I love my kids, but I need to talk Rough Riders once in a while, right? That's all we do in Saskatchewan, really, is talk Rough Riders. And so I need to have my football fix once in a while.
Okay. Good thing I'm not a football fan, so we're not going to get into any kind of exchange.
Yeah, this could get ugly very fast.
You're
saying after what the Bombers did to us on Labor Day and whatnot. So we're not in a good place right now with Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So
there you go. And I'm not going to egg you on because people are going to hate me for this. I could care less. Yeah. Okay. So now we know how it works. That was a fantastic explanation. And then the symptoms and the signs, right? So what can we do?
So hands down, biggest thing, I think anybody who suspects this, or maybe suspects that their spouse is sort of acting different, doesn't seem like themselves, hands down, first thing to do is to connect with your family doctor. It's very important to get a proper diagnosis, really. And usually what will happen if you go sit down with your family doctor, the way they will diagnose this is they will generally tend to conduct a survey with you. Now, there's a couple of popular surveys that are sort of your standardized surveys. And I'm going to give you the name of those surveys because they're actually a survey that you can easily Google. And if you want to even take the survey yourself, you could easily give it to yourself. And based on how you answer, it spits out a score. And it says, if your score is between this and this, you're likely, just stress. If it's between this and this, and it gives you all the different variants of what you need to do next and whether you might be dealing with mental health. So the name of those surveys, if you suspect you might be dealing with feeling depressed or depression, the name of the survey is the PHQ-9 survey. And that's exactly what you would type into Google, PHQ-9. And it's 9 questions about how you doing? How you feeling? How's your mood? All that kind of stuff. And so you answer those questions. And if you feel that you might be dealing with anxiety, which is obviously very, very closely related to depression, it is called the GAD-7 survey, GAD-7, GAD-7. You Google that and it brings up the anxiety survey. And based on how you answer that, if your numbers are high, that may be a very good indicator that, yeah, I need to book that appointment with my family doctor and get their assessment of how I answered that survey and what we can do next. And typically, so say you come back and your family doctor says, yeah, I think you are dealing with some depression or anxiety. You need to treat it, right? You need to be proactive in doing something. So typically what a doctor will talk to you about is a medication. And now I think these medications, it'll fall into the family of antidepressant medications. And I think these medications get a bit of a bad rap. One, they don't sound very, very flattering, right? Antidepressant medication. But just about every antidepressant on the market is designed to have an impact on your serotonin levels, right? That good mood fluid that we talked about before. And the way medications are designed to work is they are meant to make any serotonin you currently have in your system last longer. Rather than being burnt up and dispelled by your body, antidepressant will make it last longer, so you will get the mood boosting effects of that. So that is one piece that may be suggested to you to help rebound your serotonin levels and rebound your mood. Another piece that isn't as widely talked about, but now if you went to a naturopathic doctor, they would likely talk to you about supplements that would naturally help your serotonin levels to rebound. So there's two different options out there. Of everything I've read and experienced, and I've tried both of these for my own mental health journey, I do tend to think that the medications, the antidepressants, I would be leaning towards, I found more benefit in them. I've also talked to many people who said they've had some great experience being guided by a naturopathic doctor and supplements, but that is just my opinion. Different strokes for different folks. My point is you need to do something to get those serotonin levels rebounding. And I think many of us make a big mistake in this realm. And here's what I mean by that. I think that many of us look at an antidepressant medication as sort of supposed to be kind of a magic pill, and think, oh, well, I'll take this antidepressant and it will fix me. It'll fix everything that ails me. And I think the mistake is that an antidepressant medication is designed to help your thoughts to calm down and help you calm down, so that you can do the work you need to do to improve your thinking habits. And I think that is such a huge piece that people miss. They think the pill is going to do it, whereas at the end of the day, you know what, we've all got issues in our life. We've all got our thinking quirks. And you need to, at that point, you need to do the work on your thinking habits, and you need to, so that your thinking is moved in a better direction. Does that make sense, Tracy?
I was going to ask you about that because I know you have a few different things and you'll go there. I was going to say, we need to kind of fix the situation a little bit, right? Make those changes, help ourselves as well. Yeah. I'll let you carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember when we talked about the down spiral, and I said, you get that bad phone call and you're stressed out. And it's important to understand that stress is, I know you've talked about the challenges of farmers and everything they're dealing with, and the drought and the unpredictability and all the rest. And please do not hear me writing that off or being flippant about that or anything like that. But my point is that there is nothing inherently stressful in any event that happens in your life, even though obviously a drought or not getting your crop off and all obviously can lead for you to feel very stressed out. Stress is not in the event. Stress starts, and often stress lingers by how you think about the event, right? And we see this all the time because two people, you can have two farmers, one that lives just down the road from the other, and they can be going through the exact same drought, the exact same issues, and yet one is feeling pretty good and they've, are able to maintain a sense of well-being and whatnot, and the other farmer is feeling very, very opposite. And the difference is not what happens to them, but how they think about what happens to them. Yeah. And there's something really, really empowering in that, because it's who's in charge of how you think about a situation, right? hopefully it's us. And so it starts to speak to the fact that if you can understand what is happening to you and how your mind is running and getting away on you, and you understand that you need to develop better thinking habits, that is how you start to move your thinking, your life, your stress levels in a better direction. So antidepressant medication might help to calm you a little bit, but you're the one who still needs to get into better thinking habits, a better way of looking at things, a better way of processing situations, and a better way of dealing with situations.
I love that. I think that's important.
Yeah, and it's empowering. And I just to give you a couple of good tools for that people watching could maybe. One of the best books I've ever read on this. It was a book by it's Dr. David Burns, and it's called I believe it's called the Feel Good Handbook. And there's a handbook, a little book, but there's also a manual. And it really does break down the errors or the thinking habits that many people who get themselves into trouble have. Some of us are catastrophic thinkers. Some of us are black or white thinkers, right? Oh, the crop's either fantastic or it's totally terrible and nothing's going to work, right? There's a lot of gray area in between. And so this manual really, really gets you to put your thoughts down on paper and actually break apart and rebuild how you respond to a situation. And it can be a very, very powerful first step in moving in a better direction. Obviously, counseling is huge, but you need to engage in counseling, and you need to have counselors will almost always suggest, not only do you vent your issues, but they will then talk to you about, so what can you do about it, right? What is a more empowering way to deal with that, a more empowering way to think about it? So counselors will guide you in a better thought process. But again, you need to commit to doing that work for yourself. You can't just expect to take the pill and fix everything. In my sessions, I share 2 words. It's so important to me. I put it on a little card. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the words are chill and choose. And to me, I believe in keeping things simple. And I believe that these are the 2 most empowering words that you not only guides your life, guides any stressful situation, it leads you to a better way of processing and a better way of thinking. And the thing I like about the chill and choose idea is it's easy to remember and it's simple to use. How does it work? Well, when you are feeling stressed out, when something has gone south on the farm, rather than reacting, I want those words to flash in your mind. Got to chill out a little bit. I got to calm down a little bit, right? Because in that moment of reacting, what has happened, as I had said before, your brain has suddenly moved from easygoing, good decision-making you to that emotional you. And that is where most of our stress comes from. Most of us try and problem solve in the middle of feeling like this, right? Our brain is not working properly. We're in the emotional side of our brain. So when you learn to first chill out a little bit, calm down a little bit, maybe you go in the house and you grab a coffee or a drink of water, or maybe you take a break, or maybe you call a buddy and have a conversation. Get your mind off it. Let your mind calm down, and then is where you choose, right? And so rarely in life do we actually choose what will benefit us in a situation, how to properly deal with a situation, but we actually choose from a place of calm rationality what our options are. And one of the most empowering questions I found is to ask yourself, what does the situation need? Yeah. So it's an argument with your spouse. You know what? Maybe if you ask yourself that question, maybe the situation needs understanding. Maybe it needs patience. Maybe if you sense your spouse just needs a hug. right? And so this 1-2 process of chilling and choosing slows the thinking down, but it actually then asks you to make a conscious choice about, how can I turn this into something better? How can I move this situation in a better direction? Maybe it's the drought that you're dealing with, right? I'm a big believer that in any circumstances, there is something that works. There's blessings around us. There is empowerment around us, right? Sure, maybe you've gone through a terrible drought, but hey, maybe you've got a partner by your side to face that with, and you support each other. Maybe you've got a great support system. Maybe the government's talking about bringing in a support net. Whatever it is, there are positives that when you start moving to feeling calm and weighing what works and weighing the positives, it's amazing how you no longer get stuck in dwelling and spinning your wheels and constantly depleting your cells, right? And it implies that you face those tough situations head on from a place of calm strength where you actually make some empowering choices for you and your family. So it can be powerful. And it's a 1-2 habit that you learn. And it will help to move your thinking in a better direction.
I love that. Chill and choose.
Chill and choose.
Remember too. And so wise. I often find that chill and choose, put a little time in between there too, right? Helps you make a good choice.
And I love what you said there, because a good rule of thumb is the bigger the stressor, the more, like you said, put a little time in between there. The bigger the stressor, the more time should be in between the chilling and the choosing, right? Sometimes it's this is really bothering me. This is a sleep on it kind of, give myself to the light of day tomorrow to really kind of feel like I've calmed down, and then make a choice. Sometimes if it's just a little bother, you can take a break for a few minutes, do a bit of deep breathing, have a glass of water, and then you can make that choice. But bigger the issue, more time in between.
I want to touch on that a little bit from a personal experience I had, especially as I was growing my team. Stuff comes up, people, as I say, and dealing with that sometimes as a manager or a parent or whatever the capacity is can be very challenging. Yeah. And I always thought I had to react right away. Oh, problem, I need to react. And then I finally said, wait a minute, they know this is wrong. It's been acknowledged. Let's put a little bit of time and then come back around, because they don't need an answer right now. And you know what? When I learned that, I didn't realize that. You just, and maybe that's a personality thing too. I don't need time to react. Therefore, I should take time. But when I learned that changed my life, my relationships, right? Because when I finally chose to react, all that emotion was gone. And then when I came at the problem, I'm like, wow, okay. The way I'm dealing with it now is not how I would have dealt with it when it first came up. So that was life-changing. And I had to say that because game changer for me.
Yeah. And I love the way you said that, Tracy, because that almost like a light bulb moment in someone's life is a very empowering place to be. I think we all learn as we go through life, and we all have, sometimes some of us are very big reactors, and it gets us into a lot of trouble, and it creates a lot of unnecessary stress. And when you realize that you don't have to solve the situation right away, it can be very empowering. And one piece I might just want to even add there is it's a good idea, and it's much easier with family members when you both chill and choose and you're on the same page. But where I'm going with this is, say my wife Darcy and I have an argument. It's one thing for me to kind of think to myself, I need to chill out, I need to calm down and walk away from the argument. Darcy may take that as, oh, you're just walking away kind of thing.
Totally.
But it's more empowering for me to say, you know what, Darcy, I don't want this to be a big thing. I got to calm down a little bit. I just need a little bit of time. And then I walk away, and then I calm down. So she knows that I care about her. I do want to calm down. It's important to me, but I will be back, and we can talk about it when I'm in a better place. And because we both chill and choose and practice that, oftentimes she is doing the same kind of thing. She's taking a few moments to calm down. And then it's powerful when you've got two people coming together who have both put a bit of forethought into, okay, What does the situation need here? Well, how can I improve this conversation I'm having with my spouse or my friend, or this issue I am dealing with? And it can't not help move things. Sorry for my lousy grammar. It can, but it has to, it moves things in a better direction. Any degree of calming down and actually choosing to bring something more to a situation moves things in a better direction. So yes, I totally agree with what you're saying, is my long-winded way of saying
I love it.
that, Tracy.
I love it. And Darren, I want to go on this a little bit longer, because there are going to be a lot of farmers making hard choices this fall after after several bad years. And I can't help but chill and choose your analogy to these situations too, where you're maybe so angry, upset, tired, ready to pull the plug. You want to sell all the land, whatever the case is. Again, that decision doesn't need to be made right after you get off the combine and you're heartbroken, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it just 100% what you just said. And sometimes you need some time to calm down. Sometimes it's not just sleeping on it overnight. It's giving it a few days, and it's giving it a few days to just be, right? Not giving it a few days to kind of stew on it and think about it and kind of have it whirling around in your mind, just to park it, to promise that peace that, yep, I'm going to get back to it, but I need a chance to calm down. Sometimes it's when you're feeling very triggered about something, it is the time you maybe call the farm helpline, or you reach out to a counselor, and somebody who is not in the middle of that emotion, who can be the voice of reason, who can help you to choose in those times when maybe you are coming to some big decisions. And maybe if you were to choose now, you would make a very emotional decision that wouldn't serve you in the future. And sometimes when you get that neutral voice of reason in there, they see alternatives and options that you're not seeing in that emotional state. So yeah, there's a whole number of ways to do it. And there's a whole number of ways to get help to choose, especially like you said, don't make those big decisions after you get off the tractor, and give yourself a chance to calm down and reconnect and build yourself up so that this is where it needs to be to make some more effective decisions.
Okay, Darren, I might put you on the spot here. I have the platform. I know what's happening in this industry. I'm very concerned about a lot of farmers. I have heard terrible situations where farmers are just wanting to end it all in the worst way. You know what I mean? Suicide. And I've just heard a situation of somebody a friend knows, and they literally will not leave him alone because they're concerned about that. And I know this is going a little bit deep here, but I want to. I mean, if we all ignore this and don't talk about it, there could be somebody sitting there going, ugh, right? And I know you've gone through your journey, and I don't mean to put you in this spot because it's a big conversation, but I opened a can of worms there. Same thing, right? Call the helpline, right? Yeah.
It's hey, I imagine there will be people listening to this interview, and maybe that is the place that you are right now. And just to very sincerely say to you that even though you may feel in a very low place, and that it may just feel like, what's the point? There is always a better day. There's always something better to come. It might take a bit of work to move through, but when you get the help you need, and there is a ton of help out there, start by calling that farm helpline. It's amazing how what seems very desperate can often transform itself through work, through talking, through decisions, better decisions, into something much, much better, and get you to a whole better place in life. And I promise you that better times are always available to anybody listening to this message. But you do need to take that step and reach out, whether it's calling the helpline, talking to your spouse, talking to a good friend, and just saying, I'm not in a good place right now, but you do need to reach out.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry, I took us very deep there, but you know what?
Oh, no, it's important. And hey, you're not alone in feeling that. People feel suicidal sometimes. It's not an uncommon thing to feel, as much as it might surprise people. And the big piece is, though, you need to reach out, let somebody know. It's amazing how much better it gets and feels when you have some help.
Yeah, that's where I want to go, because, and I haven't been in that state, but one time personally, I'll share a personal story. I looked at Anthony.
Yeah.
I mean, we came out of this year fine, but I said, and we had heard about this situation I had just shared. And I said, Anthony, I don't care about all of this, any of it. I'll live in a hole. I don't care. But you know that, right? That pressure is not there. And we just kind of had that. And to me, I can't imagine anybody thinking the worst because of materials and ego and farm and the state that they're in. So yeah, thank you for sharing those words. I took us right kind of to where we wanted to end off. Do you have anything else you want to share about why take action? Any final words of wisdom?
Yeah. I'll just leave you with this quick piece here. And as far as I know, I've talked to a lot of people who feel very down. Like you said, some people feel down to the point of feeling suicidal and those sorts of things. You can get very low when you're in this state. And people often have a hard time taking action. I guess as far as how do you start? How do you take action? I would ask you just to take a quick look around at, I believe no matter how desperate your situation is or how low you might be, we've all got some blessings in our world, whether it's a spouse who cares about us or our parents who've got our back, friends that we can reach out to, even if it's just calling that farm helpline, just to find a person who has got your back and can guide you in a better direction. There are reasons, right? Reasons. When you're on a mental health journey, you're never on that journey by yourself. The people that matter most to you are on that journey with you. And so you don't just do it for them, you also do it for yourself. And I used to think it sounded kind of corny where people would say, oh, you got to love yourself. You got to love yourself. And I used to, again, think, no, what does that mean? But especially over the last couple of years, I've become such a big believer in holding your health, holding yourself in high regard, and really caring about yourself. You need to care about yourself, and you need to know that there's help out there. You need to care about this so you can care about and be your best for the people who care about you. And you know what? I'll promise you one thing. When I was feeling at my lowest with depression and anxiety, I often would wonder, is this just my life? Like, am I just going to feel like this? And not only have I moved through that journey, but I'm living my best life right now. Because not only did that journey make me deal with anxiety and depression, it made me deal with the issues and the thought processes that got me there in the first place. So if you're someone who's sitting there feeling very stressed, very desperate, take some action for all the reasons we just talked about, because I promise you, oftentimes your best life has yet to be lived and it is waiting there for you, but you do need to reach out.
Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I had to go there. I really did. And I'm so thankful for you joining us on the show to talk about this.
You're very welcome.
Not easy conversations, but you know what? Easy is not what we need right now. And I have a feeling this conversation has changed me, Darren. Thank you. Like, it really has helped me. And I know everybody in the audience is going, oh, right?
And now, Tracy, I appreciate you inviting me on. And I know you're having a bit more of a focus on this in September and October. So this is exactly, I feel, where it needs to start, in people like you who are connected and have a voice to get this information out to people. And you'll find, man, the more you understand the more you the more you understand. It's amazing how that light bulb goes off, and we grow a little bit and we heal a little bit. And as we said, most importantly, we move in a better direction. So a great big thank you to you as well, Tracy, for being this resource for people and making it available to them.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. If somebody in our audience wants to connect with you, would like to buy your book, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, my book is available, and it's the book that I have is the same as this session name, Staying Up in an Upside Down World. And actually, the guideline of the book falls very much of what we talked about in this session. And it is, I pride myself on sharing a lot of tools. So in addition to the Chill and Choose tool, I share a ton of other tools to help you move your thinking in a better direction. It has all the serotonin information in there as well. So if that interested you, there's all the different routes you can take to help boost serotonin levels and all that. But there's a ton of tools in there, as I usually say, to add to your stress toolbox. So if you're interested, it's available on my website at just darrenlang.com. That's DARRENLANG.com. And yeah, it's or they can contact me at info@darrenlang.com if they're looking for a bit of more information and that sort of thing.
Perfect. And I know we're going to be buying a few to give away a few, so stay tuned for that. I want to give you a plug really for your book, because it's great work. You do amazing work yourself. And I'm a big fan of tools via books. And sometimes when you're looking for answers, oh my gosh, there's a gold in books, right? And for somebody, your book might just be what helps them get to the better version of themselves. So I really wanted to give you a plug on your book as well. So thank you again, Darren. I really appreciate it. Thank you in the audience. If you enjoyed this as much as I did, please like it, share it, get it out there. Every farmer needs to hear what Darren just had to say. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.